Hi, I'm Anna.
I'm Ben.
We're AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we're watching Mushoku Tensei Season 2, Episode 18. Last episode was very special. I loved last episode. It was one of my favorite episodes of this entire series.
Gotta love the emotional episodes, especially with this show. The
I'm
ones
still
that
feeling it.
give you a little, like, time with an emotion, get you feeling. Yep.
Ready?
Yeah.
Sweet. Aww. Double take was everything.
そういえばルイジェルドさんの槍の話って兄さん聞きました。
あれか、語るも涙の話だよな。
俺は最近例の計画に取り掛かった。スペルド族の過去を赤裸々に語った本を執筆し、真実を世に知らしめるのだ。
God, I'm glad he's still wanting to do that.
10ページぐらいのコピー紙っぽくしてフィギュアをつけて配布する。
兄さん、何をしているんですか？
Let her in on it.
実はルイジェルドさんの偉業を称えた本を書こうと思ってな。
私にも。
Oh, Norn's gonna be an author. A great author.
I bet she's good at it.
話をたくさん聞かせてもらったので、私にも何か書けると思います。
ああ、助かるよ。でも勉強はおろそかにしない。
Coming from the perspective of kids that he took care of. Oh. And it being from the point of view of like stories being
So
told
happy.
about him by two different kids.
Yeah. What would be the most effective method in this world? Something
this
that's
world?
like something that's an evolution of what already exists within literature in this world and how stories are written, or just fucking blow it out of the water, invent cinema, do a play, try to create a video game, you know, like do you use an otherworldly idea to really execute the story?
I mean, we have Nanahoshi and potato chips and plastic water bottles. So, like, do we try to create, like, magical television screen?
We create a movie and do casting. We cast Body Gotti as Ruijerd, and that begins to mend their interaction.
俺がノルンを構いすぎてるから自分にもっと構ってほしいとか、仕事が辛いから休みたいとか。
お給料をください。
That is very fair.
That is so fair.
旅の途中でお花の種を集めたので。
Whoa.
変ですか？
変じゃないさ。
ダメですか？
ダメじゃないさ。
よかった。
Is Aisha gonna abuse the puppy dog face?
Maybe a little bit.
お兄様、暇があれば私にもご寵愛をくださいませ。
嫌だよ。親父に殴られる。
これ以上は負けられないよ。
She's
もう
fun.
一声お願いします。
A haggler.
有名な魔術師
Oh my god.
グレイラットの妹で
He's
ござい
just
ます
like, hey.
アスラ王国の王女アリエル様からも認められた人物でして。
グレイラット、アリエル様。
Some name dropping.
よし、いいだ。
Wow.
ダメですか？
ダメじゃないさ。
Oh, I'm so glad she's able to, like, decorate her room.
The bottle.
そう、食べ物がいいわね。
Interesting.
What type of food?
Oh my god, we have to go back at
条件
that.
付けというのは必要なんですか？
向こうに戻った時にいきなり外国に飛ばされたら面倒でしょ。
True.
It's at least the right world.
So was that flower something that she summoned? That was in the bottle?
That would already count as organic.
その魔法陣、魔術ギルドですら知らない。さっき言ってた人のオリジナルよ。
限定品と言われて心が躍るジャパニーズ。
Orsted?
次の実験に
No,
成
I think
功
it
し
was
たら
someone
今
else.
度はもっとすごいのをあげるわ。だから引き続きお願い。
Wow.
You know who's probably in this room?
Wow.
しかもジュリエのプレゼントだとか。
He gave it to...
マスター、グランドマスター。
フィギュアをプレゼント。あのザノバだね。
よかったですね、ジュリー。大切にするように。
Oh my fucking
ルイジェルドと
god.
共に妹たちを送り届けてくれたジンジャーはその後再びザノバに仕えることにしたのだそうだ。
いや、 ジンジャーさんはどうしてザノバに忠誠を誓っているのかと思って。
ザノバ様の母君より直々にザノバ様のことを頼まれたからです。
It's the best anime character.
私は誓ったので、粉骨最新ザノバ様に仕えると。
おお、それは美しい話ですね。
世に配下はおりません。最後の一人はロキシーの人形と交換いたしましたよ。
Yeah, how'd she feel about that?
いい取引でした。
あんな扱いをされても忠誠を誓い続けられるのか。
I mean, what were you trading for, though?
完璧に抑え込むまでには至らないが、リミットを数倍に伸ばすことができる。
つまりはエリナ・リーゼの呪いの症状を緩和できるらしい。
Making strides.
2つ問題がある。
なるほど。問題点の一つはダサいことです。
Oh my god.
そうだ。
It's a chastity belt.
それじゃあ1日に実験できる回数が限られるから、君の魔力でテストさせてほしいんだ。
なるほど。任されました。
He's good for anything. That's
先
it.
輩も少しずつだけど着実に目的に向かって進んでいる。
Wow, everything's so positive.
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
why are we checking in with everyone?
We're still
最
running.
近いい生活をしていると思う。こういう生活を幸せというのだろう。
No, it's what you call peace and happiness, and that's why I have an anxious stomach.
ただいま。
I don't like that bird's eye view of the house.
いざとなるとなんかちょっと怖いね。怖がることはありません。ほらシルフィーネ、勇気を出して。ルディ、僕ここ2ヶ月来て。
Why was that my first thought when I saw?
ちょっと体調も悪くて、もしかしてとは思ってたんだ。昨日アイシャちゃんと近くのお医者さんのところに行ったんだけど、その
Oh
おめでたですって。
my god.
お兄様、奥様に一言言うべきことがあるのでは？
シルフィー、ありがとう。
ありがとう。
ごめん、なんかさ、うまく言えない。
ルディ、いつも子供欲しがってたもんね。
Wow.
ご本。お兄様、奥様の体に差し障りがあるのでしばらくは。
She's gonna be policing it all.
おめでとうございます、シルフィーさん。
Oh my god, that is so wild. I can't even.
奥様に最低でも2年は休むようにとのお達しです。
Wow.
リーゼン王母様がその間責任を持って護衛を引き受け
Okay.
くださいました。
Dell and Elise reveal came at the perfect time.
呪いのこととか。
That's not gonna go away anytime soon. Imagining everyone at the
俺
table.
とシルフィーが結婚して家族もみんないる。上名村にいた頃に無双してた理想がすぐそこにある。
But there's one member of that we need to get back. What?
ゼニス救出困難。救援を求む。
He's gonna have to go.
Man God?
君はベガリット大陸に行けば後悔する。それは今でも変わらない。
ああ、そうか。お前はこう言いたいわけだ。ベガリット大陸に行けば後悔する。けど、行かなくても後悔するってな。
現に君、昨日までの時点で後悔したかい？
Did you regret it until yesterday?
いろんな人物に
Wow.
会えて君自身も少し成長した。体の不調も治った。
What a
妹とも
perspective.
仲良くなった。それに結婚して子供だってできた。
でも、だって家族のピンチだぞ。せめて理由を教えてくれよ。
それは言えない。
くそ！せめて何か教えてくれよ。俺は何を後悔するんだ。これじゃ物事を天秤にかけることすらできやしない。
普通の人は天秤になんてかけられないんだ。
Because they don't know anything.
君は贅沢だな。
贅沢でも何でもいいんだよ。俺は
I'd
後悔
rather
した
not
く
know
ないんだ。
anything.
妹たちは1年かけてここまで来た。 間違いなく行き違いになっただろう。
いや、妹は俺の手紙を見て
The birth of his child.
これから旅に出てシルフィーとの子供はどうするんだい？ベガリット大陸に行って帰ってくる。その間君は自分の奥さんを一人にするのかい？
結局どう動いても後悔するってことかよ。
そう、後悔は避けようと思っても避けられない。ベガリット大陸に行けば君は大きな機運を逃すことになる。ルーデウスよ、次の発情期を待ちなさい。そこでリニアとプルセナがあなたに迫ってくるでしょう。この二人のどちらかと関係を持ちなさい。そうすればあなたはさらに幸せになることでしょう。でしょう。
おい、いきなり浮気の話かよ。俺はシルフィーにミサオを立てるって決めたんだぞ。それに第一、あいつらとはそういう関係じゃない。
Who would regret it? The person Rudy is now, or the person that Rudy came into the world as?
Right. But it is true, he'd be gone for probably even the birth.
僕のことはあまり気にしなくてもいいよ。二人も手紙のこと心配してるしね。
There's so many people involved in it.
シルフィーといるよ。
Is that gonna... Who's gonna have regrets if you stay? You might not, but she might.
何かが起きたんだ。でも差出人はパウロじゃなくギースだ。あいつがパウロと合流する前に独断で出したのかもしれない。仮に言ったとしてもすでに救出していて行き違いになる可能性もある。
He can't drop it.
いや、でも
孫夫婦のために一肌脱ぐぐらいはさせてくださいまし。
クリフ先輩はどうするんですか？
別れますわ。仕方ありませんわね。
So many people involved.
待ってくれますよ。
クリフは将来教皇になるかもしれない器。私に対する愛は若い頃の気の迷いということにしておくのが一番いいんですわ。
It's easy for her to leave people, you know that.
世は旅慣れてはおりませぬゆえ、足手まといになりましょう。それにジュリを長旅に連れ歩くわけにもいきますまい。
ザノバ、俺さ、行くべきかな。
それは師匠の決めることです。
It really, it's a decision for you.
父親が見ていなくとも子は生まれます。不安ならば行くべきかと。その間世が責任を持って奥方様を
Wow. Oh my god, Zenoba.
シルフィーは一人じゃない。妹たちもいるし、俺がいなくてもきっと大丈夫だろう。
Norn's living there now.
Yeah.
Or at least staying the night right now.
Norn is still awake.
俺は今やこの家の大黒柱だ。家族と一緒にいて守ってやるのが夫としての、父としての役目だ。やっぱり置いてなんていけない。
Norn?
I saw the bag in the room and I thought it was like a stayover bag.
ノル。大丈夫か？
兄さんが行かないなら
If you won't go, I...
行こうと思った。
Ellen Elise too, prioritizing others.
でもだって兄さん、お父さんとお母さんが大変なんですよ。なんで兄さんは助けに行かないんですか？兄さんとっても強いのに旅だってできるのになんで？
そうだ、俺にはできるんだ。ノルンのように生きたくてもいけないというわけじゃない。
If you want that,
俺は
you have to go get it.
俺は
俺が行く。家のことを任せてもいいか？アイシャと喧嘩しないでシルフィーのことを助けてやってくれ。
はい、
Listen to the score.
よし、いい子だ。
お願いします。兄さん。
俺は
家族を助けに行く。
Turning
point
point
3. What? Last turning point was episode 21, I think. Maybe. Okay, that was Mushoku Tensei season 2, episode 18. This, I felt like I knew what I was gonna say first before I saw what the episode title of that episode was.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like what an interesting way to recontextualize what a turning point is. I think this is the first time that it's been within our control.
Yeah, it wasn't something that just happened upon us or that someone else's actions caused a turning point in our own lives. It's like Rudy's gotten to the point now through us watching him that he's strong enough to not have to just do what someone else is telling him. Like Man God, like, yes, he's listened to Man God before, but he, in his conversation with Man God in this episode, has enough strength in himself and his own opinions and feelings and his own awareness of how life works to challenge it and be like, but I'd have regrets either way, right? Like, it's a giant decision. It's a giant life-changing decision. Whether you go or not, no matter what, you and other people in your life are going to have positive and negative reactions to it or consequences of it. There's no avoiding that. You cannot avoid that.
It's scary though, like as a viewer too, of being like, okay, what do you mean for regret in terms of traveling here, Beggaret, right? Like, year's journey, are we going to try to make the argument that you're gonna regret going there because of the time spent traveling and like the lack of being present with where you currently are? I'm not gonna go with that, because the idea of regretting it also came before any of this was established, right? Going there, I would assume the regret would be whilst there, based off of your interaction with being there.
Also, the idea of saying that someone will have regret over something is, instead of taking a stance on what is going to be set into motion in life, you're taking a hard stance on someone else's internal emotions, coping, or dealing with things themselves. Man God here saying you'll regret it is taking a really harsh stance on how Rudy would feel about a situation, and then maybe even handle it after the initial feeling.
Do you want to click through the conversation with Man God real quick? So they're talking about the letter from Geese. He said they're having trouble rescuing Zenith. Sounds like trouble. You told me. Remember, you said I'd regret it if I went to Beggaret. Did you trick me? Trick you? No. If you go to Beggaret, you will regret it. Like, present tense still. That hasn't changed. Which is very intriguing, right? It makes you... Doesn't it give you the impression that regardless of when he went there, the thing that he'd regret would happen? Regardless of time? That's fucking weird to me. Because then I'm like, okay, it's Rudy specific. It's Rudy's interaction specific. So that's interesting. Okay, I see how it is now. What you're trying to say is I'll regret going to Beggaret, but I'll regret not going too, right? No, nothing like that. You made lots of friends, cured a condition, got married, fathered a kid. You said I shouldn't go. You tricked me. Whoa there, I didn't trick you. In fact, I'll give you the same advice. Steer clear of Beggaret Continent, you'll regret going there. At least give me a reason. Doesn't my advice always come in handy? At least tell me something. How am I even supposed to weigh my options like this? Most people can't. Great line there. Who cares if I'm greedy? I don't want any regrets. Just think. It should be obvious. You've spent 1.5 years in school. Your sisters took 1 year to reach you. You would have missed them for sure, right? No, my sisters only came here after they got my letter. If I'd never sent, they would have stayed Millis. Nope, Paul would have sent them. Lilia's family there. It's the same way now. what will happen to Sylphie and the baby if you leave on the journey? Would you leave your life alone that entire time? I'll end with regrets. Either way, if you go to Begret, you'll miss out on a great opportunity. And the opportunity here being hooking up with one of the sisters, right?
Yeah. He's like, it's almost like Man God's like you said, I think you started the conversation off of like, who is Man God talking about here? The Rudy from the past life that we see in this room with him, or the Rudy that lives in this new world that we see when we watch this show? Which Rudy are we talking about here?
I mean, which Rudy is Man God talking to here? Like visually.
This guy right here would regret it, you know? It's very, there's a self-serving nature to this idea of regrets, of like what Man God's saying, that like you should prioritize because this will make you happier, like you as a singular person. But what has Rudy been doing for most of this core 2 of season 2? He has been starting to branch out even more, so creating a family unit of people and friends and actual family members that he wants to protect and wants to help and wants to live together happily. The current Rudy is starting to dream of a full dinner table of his entire family together. It is not the initial Rudy that was dreaming of a maybe more a smaller knit, oh, I want that wife and that life with her. He's opening his mind up of like the people that he wants to welcome in open arms into his life and care about. He has friends that would do that for him now. He like this idea of like he'd regret it. Obviously, there's going to be regrets either way. And there's also the idea or possibility of other people regretting. Maybe they should have pushed you harder on it. Like, you staying home here, Rudy staying home here, he's not the only one that would deal with repercussions of that in terms of maybe his own regret. Sylphie might regret, if Zenith dies or they're never able to rescue her or someone else dies in trying to save her, Sylphie is going to have massive regret for not pushing it harder, not telling him even more to go. And also, we know Ellen Elise is going to break up with Cliff, and she's going to go. It's easy for Ellen Elise as a character to prioritize others and put others' feelings and comfortability ahead of her own happiness. She's been doing that her whole life. We're trying to stop her from doing that. She just finally was able to, like, start having a relationship with her granddaughter, has a guy that is wanting to, like, go to the ends of the earth for her, but she's still willing to prioritize other people, especially her family. Mainly, she said, my granddaughter's family. Again, she'd be doing the same thing that she's always been doing.
Can we talk and try to figure the fuck out with what context we have, what is gonna happen? Like, so, look, in trying to figure out, like, my mind first goes to, you'll regret it. It's, okay, somebody's gonna die. But in terms of time, that this could have happened before or after, regardless of it, we still would have regretted it. It's like, okay, if we don't go, the next letter we get, if we don't go, we never get a letter, never hear from Geese, Paul, anybody else, Roxy. That sounds like regret to me. Mm-hmm. So it's not contingent on Rudy showing up. I don't think that would be the case. If something goes horribly wrong, or Zenith is dead or dies, Paul dies, both of them die, why would us going there result in that regret? It has to be something that's more, like, focused on Rudy's presence being the catalyst for regret, I find it. Like, I find. Because, like, if it has to be Rudy interacting with something there or being a part of something there to spawn that regret. Because if that wasn't the case, wouldn't it have happened anyway without him being there?
Right. We do know that Zenith is trapped in somewhat of a labyrinth, that even like Kishirika, you know, all of these higher powers couldn't necessarily save her. if you're bringing this into like the conversation of, is it specific to Rudy's role in this universe and who he is, then the regret could come from, once you go there, there's no going back into this happiness of living as this person that you've currently been living as. And that is a terrifying thing that could lead to regret. But I also don't know how much I trust Man God in terms of like believing that it's not more so like a, why wouldn't you just do something that's more self-serving with this life that is your own?
Okay. We go there regardless of the time. Whatever happens with Zenith, Paul, it happens. But with that comes an interaction with somebody who's on the level of Orsted, or on the level of somebody who's able to see that Rudy is inherently different than other people within this world. Everything that Man God has said in staying at the university and going here, especially given the whole Linea and Presena conversation, if he stays here, he might have regrets, but it's more fulfilling to this new life that Rudy's bridged out and mapped out. What if going to Begarit would, through an interaction with another being, would out yourself and destroy the fictional side, like the new world side of things, and that would be the regret, the polar opposite end of the Linea and Presena conversation.
I think that what you're painting is a picture that I can totally see, that inevitably, because if you think about what Rudy's been doing of slowly unpacking all of this stuff and keeping his past life at first as something that he completely shut out and ignored, but now is something that he's slowly working through and using to help inform him in terms of being a better person or the person he wants to be now. What if there comes a time where he truly does have to face that and other people might be able to see it as well? What if there comes a time where the people that he's built this image of who he is to them finally find out? Like, since we have Nanahoshi in the story, we had that moment when Nanahoshi was at the housewarming party where Sylphie asks, like, wait, like, where are you guys from? How do you guys know each other? And Nanahoshi lies on behalf of Rudy. What if it comes to the moment that everyone finds out either what he looks like, which we know he's disgusted by this image that Man God talks to in this otherworldly field of smoke.
Yeah.
What if there comes a moment where everyone realizes he's not of this world, he's not one of us, and he has to go through the idea of being ostracized once again and not wanted for who he is, and suddenly people are all staring at him again.
Yeah.
That he is laid naked in front of people once again for them to gawk at.
Or you flip it and it is shown to us that way, but then it's perceived as like, it doesn't matter what you look like, we know who you are, like that kind of vibe. But I think what it all comes down to, and where our lack of trying to understand what might happen, is that I don't know the fucking story they're gonna tell. They can tell anything they want. They can do anything with it. And because of that, because of the person that Rudy is, especially after last episode, I'm like, if he had to sacrifice himself or his image in order for everybody else that he loves to be happy and go on continuing, like that, I'm getting way closer to that end of Rudy, that it's like...
Right, that I feel like he would do that.
I think giving up his own life would be easier than laying out naked, this is what I looked like in my previous life, for sure.
If it would save his entire family, I feel like we're starting to get to a Rudy who would do that.
Yeah.
If it came like an ultimatum, like, show everyone who you really are or who you really were, and Zenith's life and his whole family making it out alive and being able to sit at that dinner table together, even if he's not there, we're getting to a Rudy who would make that decision. At least that's what it feels like for me. I think another interesting line from this conversation at the beginning was, Man God was like, well, you didn't regret not going to help until that letter arrived, until yesterday. You've been so happy in this bubble that you've been in, you didn't regret it until someone basically put it in your face again and was like, you should feel bad about this.
Yeah.
And so he's basically, Man God's basically being like, remember how selfish you are?
Yeah. Zenith's rescue difficult. Send help. Do you think that Geese and Paul are together?
I thought that Geese was with him when Norn and Aisha were sent.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But my initial thought is I think that they're together, but also a year of traveling is a lot of fucking time, man. Like, if it's gonna, like, what could transpire from right now until we get there?
I have a feeling that it wouldn't be a year of traveling.
There'd be something that would make it quicker.
I feel like we're getting to this point where all of our friends are currently independently studying new innovations with magic and with traversing the, like, curses and parts of this world that have never really been tackled before.
I mean, we already had the idea of, like, pre-existing things within this world in terms of teleportation, right? Mm-hmm. And then we get the Nanahoshi connection with summoning things from a different world. How difficult would it be to transport something within this world, you know?
It's not a concept that would be completely foreign to me, the idea that when you're given the parameters by this all-seeing force of that, you then want to conquer that and be like, screw fate, screw the gods, like, let's figure out how I can have everything that I want.
Yeah.
And that could come from a place where Rudy does spend a day or two trying to figure out maybe how to get there quicker.
Do you think that Rudy's enough, or do we try to find people and bring them? Do we try to track Ruijur down? Do we try to find Ghislaine? Do we try to find Eris? Do we find anybody on the way without trying? Do we meet people new? Is Rudy's presence enough?
Right. Is it only Rudy that's actually gonna go? We know that Ellen Elise says she'll go. So I would say that even she might still go, even if Rudy does go. Cliff, that's a great, like, question mark, because Ellen Elise says,
I think Ellen Elise won't go. That's my guess.
Okay.
Because I think she'll be like, well, I'm going to stay with my granddaughter then. Like, somebody's got to take care of her.
Right, but the two girls are there and everyone else. I still feel like there's room that Ellen Elise might go. Very fair. So that's why I wanted to get into Cliff, because Ellen Elise is putting on her own ideas of, like, oh, he'd be better off.
Yeah.
She's putting that onto him because that's what she's been doing with her children throughout all these years of, oh, they'll be better off if I cut all contact with them. Mm-hmm. She's like, he'll be better off. He'll be a pope someday if he keeps at it. She's then kind of taking his own feelings and emotions out of the equation. We don't need to talk to him. We don't need to see how he would feel about it or what he would want to do in this situation. And so I feel like there's a possibility that Cliff would have his own feelings about it. We already know that he's dedicating so much of his study into figuring out how to break this curse for her. And we do know that he's incredibly powerful himself.
Man, very early on in this episode, I was like, so we're leaving by the end of this episode. Like, we've checked in with so many people.
He's the only person that we didn't check in with about this particular thing.
Yeah.
We check in with Zenoba. He says, I would go with you, but Julie, he has a child that he's taking care of and that he's in charge of and responsible for.
I loved his
Cliff
response,
is the only person that we didn't actually individually check with on if they had advice for him, for Rudy, about what he should do, or if they would do anything like watch over his family or
we didn't really talk to Nanahoshi about it.
And we didn't talk to Nanahoshi.
We got the reward and then we
didn't talk to
Nanahoshi
help about this, like, specific thing and any advice.
Man, I've never been more worried excited for something, I don't think, in my entire life. Because it worried in the best way possible, because, like, I know that I'm just going to enjoy it. But I'm so, like, immersed in the world, and we had just finished coming out of watching episode 17, which got me even closer tied to this world. I love that Norn is the final push. Norn being the final push and her willing to go alone is the best thing ever. I love what they do for Norn's character there. It's not just a fucking, like, oh, yep, done, it's over, everything's resolved. No, they're a living, breathing character, and they're in full effect.
Yeah, and she felt
of course it's Norn.
Very real for that. Because with that crying and her, like, there's level, obviously she's upset about her parents and she wants them to be rescued, but she's also aware of why this is a hard decision for her brother, which is another reason why she didn't confront him prior to this moment of falling on her face and being like, why aren't you going? Like, you are so strong. Like, she's like, you are so, you can do it. You can
travel, and like, I
and
can't.
You're so strong.
I love that, because it's like, there are people who wish that they could do things and just don't have the means to, right?
You've been given the power. I feel like it was like episode 1 of season 1 or something like that, that Rudy was like, I've been given this chance to live this life. I'm gonna fucking live it. I'm not gonna squander it. I'm gonna do it, you know? And he's being confronted with that again. Like, you have been gifted immense power and capability in this world. Not only a new life for yourself to be able to resolve any of your past issues and live a happy and peaceful life, but you've been given immense power in this world.
Are you at all worried that 1,000% somebody's gonna die because we see the entire happy family together in visions?
I don't know if narratively it's necessary for someone to actually die and for this lovely vision in sepia tone to not actually come to fruition someday. I feel like it's not necessarily necessary on an emotional or narrative. Not that it shouldn't happen or it won't. It's just like, this show tackles so many emotions anyway that it's not like it needs to do that.
But it treats itself as, you cannot control everything. You are going to have regrets either way. And that's why I think that
someone could die and it not be your fault at all. Like, the idea of regrets and resentment building, like, there are other parties involved.
I'm worried
that are
for
hold their own
Paul.
emotions.
We talk about how Paul would spoil a grandchild and how the type of person he is would do that. Mm-hmm. That scares the shit out of me. We haven't heard from Zenith in a long time, but I was glad I got to see her again. It definitely reminded me why I feel the way that I do about Zenith. I'm not as scared for Zenith as I am Paul.
It's Paul. If someone dies,
it's Paul.
It is either Roxy or Paul. It is either Roxy for Rudy's like first person that he cared for, and his mentor and his master and his teacher. Okay.
Paul dies. Rudy couldn't save him. He finally comes back to Norn and is like, I'm so sorry, don't hate me, I tried, I hate myself. Norn just hugs Rudy and is like, I'm just glad you're okay.
For the characters and where we've gotten their interpersonal relationships too at this point, but also for the narrative, like, what have we done here? We've had Paul putting responsibility onto Rudy's shoulders as a caretaker of this family. Even from his young age during the punching scene, but now with a respect of, like, I'm sending your 2 little sisters to live with you.
I don't imagine.
How will Paul feel? Like, he didn't write the letter.
No, imagine, like, Paul's there and it's like, don't send this to Rudy, and Geese did and does. Like, is Paul gonna be pissed that Rudy shows up? Like, you aren't with your sisters taking care of them?
Paul might be trying to preserve. Because I remember, like, because as you bring that up, it takes you back to the punching scene.
Yeah.
Like, in that scene, Paul is forgetting that he's talking to his literal child in that moment because of his grief. And he's like, where have you been all this time? You've just been having fun on this little vacation. And he came out of that. Like Norn realizes, Paul and Rudy have made up and mended things. Paul isn't trying to, like, he's taking on this responsibility of saving Zenith as his own. Like, that he's the one that's gonna do it. Rudy is willing to take in his sisters and watch over the family.
They need
and
to
now
be safe
Paul
too.
Is going to be worried about Zenith while also, like, trusting in Rudy and, like, remembering that is my son and he is with my daughters and they are safe. And now I can fully, as I sent Norn with Ruijerd, so I could fully dedicate myself to saving my wife. Yeah, you're right. Like, was he a part of that letter writing to begin with? Would he even want Rudy to come?
Yeah. I like the little what I think it's called lamplight spirits that we got from Nanahoshi, but I really want to talk about like the steps going forward for Nanahoshi's plan, right? Because I think that there's one specifically I want to talk about. Summon inorganic matter. 2. Summon organic matter. 3. Summon an organism, a plant or small animal. Number 4. Summon an organism from this world according to detailed conditions. Number 5. Experiment with returning the summoned creature to its original location. Now, how the fuck could you determine
How do you know?
if you correctly returned that summoned creature to its location? You want to know what? You fucking don't, and you just take the risk and you're doing it to yourself. That's where my head goes.
I would try to do something that was inorganic. Like, say that you brought a camera from the other world and you set it on a timer. Like a timer
That's
to take
its
a
own
picture.
rule,
Send
though.
it back. Have it take a picture of where it is.
Yeah.
And then bring it back.
Or
and then look at the picture.
You do it with a real person and you...
Something that can tell you.
Yeah, and then you do it all over again, right? After returning the creature, you summon it again to see ask the person if they were back to where they...
And if that was the case, she'd be doing something incredibly effed up.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Sylphie's pregnant. Oh my god. I legitimately, you said that your mind was going there. Mine was not until, like, it was already there in the scene.
I didn't want to say it because I felt silly. Like, sometimes in a reactionary feeling, you think something, then you're like, oh, I shouldn't say this because, like, why?
Yeah.
It's so silly. Like, you know, and then you're also immersed, so sometimes you don't want to just, like, blurt things out. And as soon as I, like, saw that she was just sitting there, I started thinking it, but I was like, there's no way, like, come on. But then I think back to Ariel's conversation with Rudy, being like, hopefully she has kids so that I don't have to worry about her trying to come with me to fight.
Yeah, for real.
And then Rudy's the one that's supposed to fight on behalf of Sylphie then for Ariel. Mm-hmm. We already have that in the works, that Rudy is strong and capable enough that he already was supposed to fight on behalf of Sylphie so that she won't. And now we have that happening with Norn, like, and him doing it because Norn can't. It makes so much sense. Why is this story so well written? I don't know.
Daisha's subplot was a little wild, but I liked it.
Her getting to have her curtains.
Yeah. Flower seeds.
And her flower seeds.
Man, on fire. I'm also pretty hot, so yeah, that too. And temperature-wise, I'm not that much of an asshole. I don't believe it. I don't know what to say now. I feel like I've gotten myself...
You could just say bye. You got a little flustered.
I'm a little flustered.
Okay. Please like, comment, subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.
That was a good job.
Thank you.
I like this show a lot.